Hello and welcome. This is our latest Confessions podcast, another audio array of terrible tales. The Radio 2 listeners getting more and more sinful. They all need forgiveness from our caring collective. This week's concise collection features a smoke-soaked satchel scenario, 2 vacant vagabonds in Vegas, and a gargantuan golfing gaff. Just the 3, short a week. You know how it goes. The Confessional Collective are in. You're ready to go now, Matthew? Are you
Yeah, I've always been ready.
That's very good. So tonight's tale, send yours, by the way, please, confessions@bbc.co.uk. This one from The Wanderer. Dear Father Simon and the Collective, my confession goes back over 10 years when a well-known corn-based snack company was doing an offer on flights to America. It was a real humdinger of a deal. Buy 6 bags and get a flight to the USA for £99. An offer not to be turned down, especially as I was recently divorced and in need of some man time, says The Wanderer. Quick call to my other single friend, and it was agreed that we would take part. Much snacking later, we were ready to book our flight. As I had spotted the deal, I got to choose where we went, and after some serious deliberation of about 30 seconds, I chose Las Vegas. Who'd have thought a confession could come out of Las Vegas? My friend, who I will refer to as Bill, had visited Vegas many times before and, to be honest, was a bit fed up with the place by now, and he made it very clear that this would be the last time he went. I said I was really looking forward to it, as it was my first visit. As he had some experience of Sin City, he took care of booking our accommodation. 3 nights at what I shall call Hotel 1, and then 3 nights at Hotel 2. I've obviously changed.
Of course. Who would call them Hotel 1 and Hotel 2?
Now, if you've been to Vegas, you will know that the Hotel 2 is a top luxury hotel, whereas Hotel 1 is not. In fact, we spent most of our time at Hotel 1 looking forward to our stay at Hotel 2. However, every single person we told about our upcoming stay said the same thing. Unless you're a high roller, Vegas lingo for very, very rich, you get given a room overlooking the freeway at the back, and not one at the front overlooking the famous strip and the dancing fountains show. This is when I made it my mission to get us a strip view room. On the day we were due to check in to the Hotel 2, my friend was struck down with a bout of food poisoning, so I was in charge. I made a beeline for the concierge's desk, where I quickly struck up a convivial conversation with the lovely Mandy. The weather was discussed briefly, which is only brief really in Las Vegas. It's hot, well, and it's dry. Then I got onto the thorny issue of our upgrade. I told her that Bill had been to Vegas many times, but this would be his last visit, and it would be nice for us to have a fountain view room, as he wouldn't ever be coming back. I was contemplating comparing Bill to Oscar Wilde, you know, when one is tired of Vegas, etc. But I was stopped in my tracks by the look of sheer horror on Mandy's face, and I realised she got these kind of limp requests all day long and batted them away for a living. I prepared myself for my highway view and to be soothed to sleep by the hum and drum of traffic. So I was very, very surprised when she said, "Your upgrade will not be a problem, and would we like to be upgraded to a suite?" Well, I thought about this for a nanosecond. Well, that would be ideal, I said. As I leant on the concierge desk, puzzled but elated, I saw Bill coming towards me. He'd only recently recovered from his food poisoning, and he still looked terrible, pale and sweaty with bags under his eyes from lack of sleep. I introduced him to Mandy, who tilted her head to one side and told him how honoured she was that he had chosen to stay at Hotel 2. Frankly, he could barely speak, so me and the receptionist exchanged sympathetic glances, and I steered my friend away. We didn't have time to stop and figure out what was going on, because we were promptly taken to the largest hotel room I have ever seen. The beds were bigger than my bedroom at home, the ensuite was like the entire bathroom section in a department store, and there was a bar and sofa area that would have shamed Elton John. The next morning we awoke feeling top of the world. There was a knock at the door. Our breakfast was delivered by Charlene, the floor manager. Mandy had told her about Bill's last visit, and the team at Hotel 2 wanted to make it his best Vegas trip ever. And suddenly, the rhinestone scales fell from my eyes. All became clear. The upgrade, the freebies, the last trip ever. I sat on the oversized leather sofa with silk pillows and cashmere throw, put my head in my hands. They clearly thought Bill was dying and that this was going to be his very last hurrah. As opposed to he was just fed up with the place and didn't want to come back. "What's up?" asked Bill. Well, I looked at him. looked at how happy he was in his luxuriously soft bathrobe, grinning as he looked forward to visiting the pool, where you could swim up to the bar, which of course was free. "Oh, nothing," I said, "absolutely nothing. I need to ask for forgiveness from Bill for not giving him the opportunity to do the right thing, which was clearly to own up. And I suppose I also need to ask for forgiveness from Hotel 2 for, in 3 short days, racking up a bill of thousands of dollars and not paying a dime for it. The bill did actually say, paid in full. I just thought it happened in sketches and in songs. So The Wanderer, basically, is a very interesting setup here, because it wasn't really of their doing, but the receptionist clearly thought, judging by the look of him, and judging from the fact that The Wanderer said it's his last trip, that he was about to peg it. And then when they realised that this was their mistake, that it's, oh, no, it's not that he's dying, it's just that he doesn't want to come back again. They didn't own up. They got a free stay. Let's see what Sister Rebecca makes of that.
It's a really difficult one, because he completely had me on his side until the last bit, when he didn't realise why they'd upgraded him to such a posh room. That was fine, and when it was all unintentional. But the moment he realised, and then he stayed for 3 days and ran up a huge bill, that becomes slightly different, doesn't it?
Well, that was the length of their stay.
Obtaining goods by deception, all that. If they'd paid for it and just got the upgrade for free, I wouldn't have minded. So, Matt's laughing. I wouldn't have minded so much.
You would have done the same, yeah, I hasten to add.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, the upgrade would have been fine. It's just the whole kind of bill thing going up to, thousands of dollars or whatever it was. That's a bit dodgy when he knew that they're only doing it because they thought Bill was dying. So I'm not going to forgive.
Well, I think before people cast their stone, I think they should think, and what would you have done, Dudley?
Well, I just know which way the stone is going to come from, Mr. Williams. I just know it. But I can't forgive either, really. You should have checked some way in when you thought, we're racking up, thousands of dollars here. This is amazing. Can I just check that but nothing really was said, and they walked off and had a thoroughly enjoyable time. So I can't forgive, I'm afraid. I can't forgive. I know someone who might forgive.
Almost certainly will, Matthew.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Come on, it's their fault anyway.
Go down to reception and say, oh, by the way, my friend's not dying. We'll obviously have to pay. Sorry.
And
but you might have got the wrong
room.
end of the stick. Mandy, stroke Charlene, stroke whatever.
Put us on the freeway.
Please. Which of us would not do that? We would all be we're racking up those bills.
No, there are
yes,
two of us here
I
who
will have a Bloody Mary at 2 in the afternoon, and I want it with a big stick of celery.
Also, I'd be worried that I was tempting fate with that.
Really?
Karma
Really?
pennies and all that.
No, don't buy it. We'd all do the same, and I would do it twice over. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, definitely forgiven. Well done.
This will be the Drive Time Confession, because the music is up and running, and tonight's tale comes from Stephen. Stephen, thank you very much indeed for your confession. If this provokes anything in you, you can send us yours. Dear Simon and the Caring Collective, after 55 years, I would like to confess. This story, I'm afraid, involves cigarettes. In those days, we didn't know how stupid we were being. I attended a grammar school in Surrey, which was run on the lines of a public school. It had a strong emphasis on discipline, uniform and study. This may have been fine for some, but we students were mainly working class boys with a strongly rebellious streak. I lived in a street close to the school. In that street and close to my house lived my Latin master. We'll call him Mr. Mattier. Mr. Mattier was a strict disciplinarian, ex-army with a military bearing, straight back, barrel chest thrust out, that kind of thing. His war service was probably composed a little bit of terrifying new recruits. That was the way he operated. Latin and I did not agree, but then neither did Mr. Mattier and me. We had history, you see. It started before I went to the school. It may have been the incident of the football and the dahlias, my football, his dahlias, or more likely my detection during a game of knocked or run away, as we called it, which I think is self-explanatory. Came to a head when I had my first Latin lessons. Inevitably, Mr. Mattier was my Latin master, and equally inevitably, I was in the firing line for any snap questions. Mr. Mattier was discussing transitive and intransitive verbs, something I had never heard of. In my junior school, I was unusual for knowing that there actually was such a thing as a verb, but I was stumped. Mattier fired his first question, asking if the verb was transitive or intransitive. Looking around the class, he settled on me. I saw it as a 50-50 shot. Transitive, I said. Intransitive, he said. During the next 5 minutes, I learned nothing about transitive and intransitive verbs. but that the law of averages was based on wishful thinking rather than any statistical principle. My torture came to an end when a furious, red-faced, apoplectic Mr. Mathieu beat my desk with his fists and shouted, "Damn it, boy, you must know the difference between transitive and intransitive." I didn't then, and I'm not sure I do now. Anyway, a few years passed in mutual animosity. Now, a small group of us 16-year-olds had a habit of walking to the corner of my street and wait for a bus. We chatted about life, love and the universe, something, as we thought then, that could only be done while smoking an illicit cigarette. The breaches of school rules were too numerous to count, but they would include A, smoking, B, smoking whilst in school uniform, C, removing our caps and ties in public, that's 2 offences, and D, not returning home promptly. We therefore delayed our rebellion until after Mr. Mathieu had turned the corner to home. All went well until the day that we left school late, a small matter of a group detention, and formed our little band. We assumed that Mr. Mathieu had already returned to Domus Suis. Latin experts all over now nodding knowingly. However, he hadn't. A staff meeting had kept him later than us. A pall of smoke hung over us. I was acting the goat, facing away from the school, and was mystified when my friends simultaneously and prematurely finished their cigarettes, stubbing them out and flicking them away. I was even more mystified when they broke into paroxysms of laughter until I heard a familiar voice intoned, "Boy!" I rapidly... How am I doing, by the way?
Very
on the teacher
well,
front, do you think?
surprising. I mean, alarmingly well.
Yes, thanks very much. I rapidly evaluated my position. Of the offences listed, number 1 was the smoking. We could explain our lateness on enforced detention and our removal of uniform on the heat of the day. Conclusion, possible detention might escape with lines, but the smoking would mean a visit to the head. I did the only thing that I could think of. I flicked my cigarette and it landed in my best mate's open satchel, and I turned to face my fate. Mathieu could sense wrongdoing from miles away, and for us to be close to a dispelling pall of cigarette smoke had his senses working overtime. He decided to wait it out and let us incriminate ourselves. He alternated between good cop and bad cop, firstly inquiring how our day had gone, and then in a more threatening tone, hoping that we were doing nothing to bring the school into disrepute. I was desperate to escape. Only I knew of the lighted cigarette that was burning away in Michael's satchel. I can see now that my sudden proclamation that I needed to head home to do my Latin homework set alarm bells ringing. He probably couldn't remember a single time when I'd actually got any homework in on time. He seized on this to enter into a lengthy conversation about that day's lesson and my understanding of it. He could smell a rat. I could smell burning paper. Eventually, he too could smell burning, and my suggestion that it was a neighbour starting a bonfire came to naught as Michael threw his satchel to the ground as great clouds of smoke started coming from the inside. Michael took the rap, and I let him take the rap. I told him that his cigarette had failed to clear the wall and had bounced into his satchel. A likely story. Whilst I'd thrown mine to the ground and stood on it, Mathieu's intrusion had prevented me from saying anything, and of course there was a schoolboy inquisitiveness to see what would happen next. I justified it to myself that it was some kind of chemistry experiment. However, it doesn't work anymore, and so I need to ask forgiveness. Mr. Mathieu's probably gone to the great staff room in the sky, but in absentia, Mr. Mathieu and Michael Peccavi. I imagine that means, well, I'm very sorry.
Yes.
And to my lungs, I can only apologise. What was I thinking of? Anyway, there's Stephen, and he got caught by his Latin teacher. Cigarette into the satchel, a very, very unwise thing on so many counts. Let's see what Sister Rebecca thinks of this.
Am I right in thinking that Stephen had his back turned to Mr. Mathieu, and his friends all saw Mr. Mathieu turning up and stubbed out their cigarettes, and they didn't tell Stephen, they just laughed at the fact that they thought he was going to be caught. So I think he was absolutely within his right to flick his cigarette into his friend's satchel. I'm sure he didn't mean to, but once it landed there, I think that, you know, all's fair really when your mates are doing that to you. So I am going to forgive you.
Well, let's see what Brother Matthew makes of this.
What an intriguing teaching style Mr. Mathieu had. Bellowing at kids, transitive and intransitive. Is that how it works? That's how we get the message across, is it?
Transitive or intransitive?
It sounds like somebody going on holiday and shouting at foreign waiters.
It sounds exactly like, if you've got The Wall, the Pink Floyd album, it's that teaching style.
Exactly, yes. So I would think that this teacher has got everything coming to him. And frankly, what a shot that was, getting the lighted cigarette, into someone else's satchel. I would be boasting about that shot for years to come if I'd managed to pull that off. I reckon if you tried that again 100 times, you wouldn't get into the satchel. So well done for that. Definitely forgiven.
Nigel joins the collective. Novice Nigel is here because, well, it being a Thursday, being a foodie Thursday, and we've got a curry coming up, and you did suggest that you might have all the added bits and pieces last week, and from the look on your face, there's no chance of that happening.
Right.
Do you mean like what, meat? Is that what you're talking about?
No, just sort of like little side dishes, maybe an onion bhaji or something, maybe a poppadom with some chutney.
Yeah.
I'll just pop along for those.
Go around the corner, friendly.
You mean you're going to give us a curry without any side dishes?
No, there are noodles, and very nice ones too.
Who wants noodles with a curry?
You do.
Right.
Today.
Okay, that's coming up after 6 o'clock. Curry and noodles. By popular demand. Oh, well, never mind. Well, Ken Bruce is on Radio 2 Eurovision, so we'll see what's going on there. Well, you're very welcome, Novice Nige, anyway, of course, and tonight's Drive Time Confession, gather round, everybody. Gary in Surrey sends in this one. By the way, we put them all into a podcast, and you can download them tomorrow, should you miss any. Father Simon and the collective, it was 4 years ago now, in the summer holidays. I was around 14 and really enjoying my golf. There you go. See, I'm already don't
Good
quite...
start.
Yeah, do you think that's good?
Yeah. Very good start.
To be a 14-year-old golfer?
Yes.
Okay.
That's quite unusual, isn't it?
Well, I would have thought so.
No, I started playing golf very young. Did you? So, yeah.
Let's discuss this.
Let's talk about that instead of
If you are playing golf, you're normally a pretty good golfer if you're playing golf at that age.
Anyway, Gary continues. I was really enjoying my golf, playing whenever I had the chance. There was a big junior competition coming up at my local club. In fact, it was coming up this weekend, and I was determined to do really, really well. So much so that I used to practice in the garden with air balls. Now, I'm not sure how much you know about golf, but these air balls are very like plastic balls with holes in, and they flew with ease. Couldn't hurt a fly, in theory. I was practicing in my garden with these air balls, using my 9-iron. I was trying to hit these air balls over our semi-detached 2-storey house. That was the idea. In hindsight, this was probably not particularly brilliant, but what could possibly go wrong, I thought. My fault in the plan was that I was not wearing the specified glove for gripping. I was just lining up for another attempt, and as I took an overly large swing, my defenceless little brother, aged 10, walked out of the house right in front of me. However, I didn't see him until I'd swung and hit the ball. So the ball then hits him in the face, and he falls over backwards like something you'd see in a cartoon, and he lands on his backside, probably due to the shock rather than the impact of the ball. As I said, they're quite flimsy. However, I have to tell you I cared not for my brother at that moment, because I realised that worse was to come. Because, at the same time, the 9-iron, which was previously in my hand, had flown out of my hand and into the air, and it soared high, spinning as it went, heading over next door's roof and missing their chimney by about a foot. I should probably have mentioned that the house down the road from us had a happily unaware of flying golf clubs kind of family that had just moved in. Mind you, to be honest, I think that's sort of most families, isn't it? I mean, there aren't many families that would look around saying, this looks like the kind of neighbourhood where we might have flying golf clubs.
Yeah.
Anyway, I watched the club before it faded out of view. Probably only lasted about half a second, but it felt like hours before I heard the crash. A sort of clang, scratch, and then a crash. I'm not sure how, some older brother tick, no doubt, but I convinced my brother, who I just smashed in the face with a ball, making him fall over, to sneak round into the yard by climbing over the fence and retrieving his my golf club. We peered over the fence. The club had landed in a flower patch metres away from their old Ford Anglia, via its bonnet. Reassuring my brother, he jumped over the fence and was quick enough to collect the club and run home as fast as he could without getting caught. Needless to say, I hid the clubs and didn't practice in my garden again that summer. There was no reason for us to be suspected. We were never questioned, though I still feel guilty every time I see a Ford Anglia to this day, which, you have to be honest, is not very often, really. The event left me feeling very guilty and worried, but my brother, with no mark or bruises, just a frown on his face. And in case you're concerned, I came 7th out of 10 in the competition, so clearly the practice didn't help. But I would like to apologise, mainly to my brother, for putting him through this when it was not his fault or his responsibility. And also the house 2 doors down for the many broken stems my careless brother trampled when he collected the golf club, and the dented and scratched car bonnet caused by its unlikely flight. See, there is something about siblings that you can't. This is sort of it's all fair. This is the kind of thing that happens. But if you were doing that to your mate, I suspect we get absolutely no forgiveness at all. And on previous experience, people tend to be very forgiving if they have younger brothers or older brothers. Say, yes, absolutely, I made my younger sister do something like that. Anyway, Gary makes his younger brother go and retrieve the golf club. the 9-iron. It was entirely his fault. He should have done it. But let's see what Sister Rebecca
It's
thinks.
always quite sweet and a little bit sad, isn't it, when the younger sibling goes and just does all
I'll do
these
it.
things. Yes, I'll do it, even though, bad may befall them if they do. But actually nothing happened. Nobody noticed the dent in the Ford Anglia.
Well, they probably did when they came back.
Do you think? Or maybe they did, I suppose so. But it was probably quite an old car, wasn't it?
Oh,
This
well,
was
that's-
only,
oh, well,
this
is
was
that
only
okay
a few
then?
years ago, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't notice enough to knock on the neighbours' doors and find out
Yeah.
whether
Oh,
they
that's
were
okay
responsible. And the flower stems being, that could have happened at any point.
What happened
So
to your moral
I
compass?
think that
there was a time when you were...
he didn't mean to do it, did he?
Upright.
He was just hitting the old golf ball. So I think because it was an accident, the only thing that was making his younger brother go, and the brother probably wanted to help his older brother out. So yeah, you're forgiven, Gary.
Novice Nigel.
Well, being the younger brother of 3 and having been hung out of windows by elder brothers in
Really?
early life. Yeah.
How high up? How high up?
A story, old farmhouse story, wouldn't want to be let go. They deny it, but I remember it now, scarred. And this is the type of thing that would have happened to me. And yeah, it was... Initially I thought, oh dear, like you, Rebecca. And then I thought, no, because that's what happened to me. Gary's only 4 years ago, so he's 18, and 9, and that can really hurt if it lands on your head or on a Ford Anglia. So
Good
on
to know
this
you're over it,
occasion-
Nige, anyway.
Yeah. No, Gary. I'm not forgiving you. Stamp my pen.
Calm down, Nige. It was a long time ago. Brother
4 years.
Speaking as an elder brother, they've all got it coming. Younger siblings, you've got it coming. That's just the way. That is your lot in life. Unlucky.
It's like Darwinian, is it?
Yeah. We got fertilised first. Unlucky. We came out first. That's the way it goes. If this car is a Ford Anglia, and this only happened 4 years ago.
Yes.
So basically, this car has managed to survive. Must be like 40, 50 years. How old are Ford Anglias? How's it managed to get through all this? And then suddenly a golf club comes flying over the fence and hits it. I say forgiven because of the younger brother thing. Because basically, I was always going to forgive. As soon as you sent the younger brother over the fence, I thought, yeah, I'd do that.
They were this week's confessions. Who did you forgive? And don't forget, send us your own mischievous misdeed. Perhaps inspired by one of those. Who can say? Confessions at bbc.co.uk. More in a week. And the Weekly Mayo available to download now and every Friday. Thank you.